Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. Today's special guest is Jess. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Is Jess is it for something short? Is it Jessica or just Jess?
It's Jessica, but I like to go by Jess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Jess, where about are you?
I am in the Chicago area in
Mm.
Illinois.
What's the weather like?
Right now it's actually nice for this time. It's in the mid 50s. But
Oh,
it's been up and down. It was 30s just a few days ago, and now it's 50s. So who knows? It's kind of the norm of Illinois.
oh, wow. Yeah. Ah, that's so cool that you live there. I've talked to so many people from everywhere. It's so beautiful.
I'm
Welcome to the
excited to talk to
podcast.
Canada over
Yeah.
here. So good to talk to you.
Yes, likewise. So, Jess, can you start by telling us who you are and what you do?
Yes. So my name is Jess Kaskov. I am an author and I'm a speaker and I'm also a life coach. So I most recently wrote my book Soul Salary, SOUL, and it's 4 profoundly impactful steps to aligning your time and energy with what feels joyous and fulfilling. That's the title of the book, and it came out in July. And right now I'm on a podcast book tour. So Bernadette, I'm glad you had me as part of the tour. So this is a great stop to make
Mm-hmm.
on the tour. And I guess something else about me is I have 2 kiddos, 2 boys, very active, a supporting husband, and 2 very lazy cats.
Me too.
Yes. And I actually, for 15 years, was an engineer at a Fortune 500 company, and in the end, left that to become a entrepreneur. Started my company Joyfulness with Jess, and that's where the book came about, coaching came about, speaking came about, and that's kind of where I am now. And it's really kind of focused on this lofty goal of wanting to make a profound impact on the world by spreading joy. So
Oh,
that's
wow. Where would
where
you
I'm
like to
headed and looking to do.
start? Where would you like to start out of all the amazing, juicy stuff you just shared?
Well, let's start with the
Oh,
book. Let's start with the
yes,
book. I think that
please,
would really
please,
support
please
your
do so.
audience. So
Yes. Tell us more. I'm excited.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like starting with how it was birthed. Have you heard of like a bucket list?
A bucket list?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I
You
have.
heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like the list you make of things you want to do in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I thought about writing a book, my first instinct was it's on my bucket list. I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I was diving a little deeper into like, well, why? Why do I really want to do it? Because being on my bucket list is not going to motivate me through writing a book,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I thought, okay, why do I really want to do it? And this thought came in my mind about time travel. With a book, you can time travel.
Mm-hmm.
So your kids,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be there for them. However, my book still will be. And so that was my next why. And then I said, okay, well, why is that important that I time travel? And I thought, okay, well, I have been working very hard on finding my joy and fulfillment, and I want to spread that to others.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last why was what I just told you, which is that goal of being that thought leader who inspires people to joy, and makes a huge impact on the world. So that's how the book purpose kind of evolved. And that was interesting to me because I was like, let's do it because on my bucket list. And that went all the way to like, let's change the world. Right.
Yeah, wow, that's a big jump, that's for sure, and it's a brave one. That's
Thank
really
you.
cool. Yeah,
Thank
Soul Salary. Was the title easy to come up with?
Well, that's a great question. It was a term that came out of a conversation I was having with my best friend. We were feeling overwhelmed, overworked. We were both successful professionals at top companies, and we're both moms. And we were talking about how there's this expectation to work like you don't parent and parent like you don't work.
Yeah.
And we were just exhausted from these expectations. And I said, gosh, why is success so tied to our financial salary and society's standard of success? What if it was just what we paid ourselves? And I was like, oh, that's a concept. I said, so what if our soul's salary was what success in life looked like? That's really how the term came about. And so soul salary, just to kind of give you a definition of it, is it's not that financial salary that you earn on your job. It's
That's what I
truly
thought about.
You did? You did?
Yeah.
So that's so the salary concept is used throughout the book, and I'll explain that in a second. But everyone knows the salary concept, right?
Yes.
But soul salary is a different play on it. So it's not that financial salary you earn; it's the salary you pay yourself. And
Yeah.
so, for example, like I'll use that concept to say, what's your paycheck in soul salary? And that those paychecks are what fills you up. So what feels joyous, what feels fulfilling? What are your bills? So that's what drains you. I call those soul suckers and joy killers.
Hmm.
So lovingly call them that, right?
Yeah.
The soul suckers are, limiting beliefs and fears that are holding you back from living a fulfilling life. Joy killers are others' expectations and your own out of touch expectations that are holding you back from a more joyous life. So if you do the paychecks, the bills, and then I talk about how to give yourself a raise, a promotion, how to budget, and it's all based off of soul salary. So it's increasing your joy and fulfillment. It's not truly financial budgeting, but it's, using the same vernacular.
Wow. That is fascinating, the way you articulate it and the way you break it down to make
Thank
it
you.
understandable.
Thank
Because
you.
sometimes I find with some books, okay, I'm getting the story of the person and what they want to do, but how is it? How can I apply it to my life? And how can I use the tools that are in the book? And I find that based on what you said, that you're doing that. You're giving the steps. Do you mind going a bit more in depth about the steps on your book?
Yes. And just to kind of circle back with what you just said about like how do I do it for myself? The book is a book and a workbook in one. So it has kind of exercises throughout as well. I give my examples and my stories and information and coaching through the book. But it also is an opportunity for you to reflect and say, okay, what steps do I need to take? So hopefully that helped. But to answer your question about kind of going into more in depth, is there a specific section you want to talk more about? Paychecks, bills, the definition. What interests you?
Good question. I love that you were talking about the expectations because of what society expects. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and one or more persons say I'm not doing anything. I'm like, are you serious? I'm dying from the time I get up, from the time I go down as well, right? It's just the expectation and how we can find more fulfillment or joy in doing what we love.
I love that. That's perfect. I feel like that is such a bill for so many people. Is that expectation? And actually, I have a little kind of exercise that I could do with you if you're open to it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So tell me 2 expectations that you have of yourself.
Ooh, to be a good mom and to impact the world.
Okay. Tell me 2 expectations others have of you.
To meet their needs and to be what they want me to be, not necessarily what I want to be for them.
Yeah.
It's just their needs, not mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then which of those, so if you think back of those 4, which ones are not authentic? And we know that they're not authentic. So I'll give you a kind of a hint. I think you already know, but for the listeners, you look back at the expectations and you'd say, can I add I want to or I desire to in front of the expectation? If I can and I believe it, it's authentic to me. If I can't, it's not authentic to me. It's someone else's expectation or my out of touch expectations. So let's go through yours. I'm a good mom. Authentic?
Yes.
I want to be a good mom. It feels authentic. Your second one, which I forgot what it was, your own expectation. Oh, make an impact on the world. Do you feel like that's what you want to do?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it is. Yeah. And then meeting other people's needs.
That's not authentic.
Yeah. It's not like I desire to meet other people's needs.
Yeah.
Right. And that's also not really truly possible, right? Everyone has to meet their own needs in some way. So that's a really interesting one you picked. And then the fourth one was really be what other people want you to be. And that one's pretty obviously not authentic, right?
No, it's not.
So those ones you cross out are joy killers.
Ooh.
Because you are still taking them on. The fact that you said those expectations are on you means you're still taking them on. So those are bills in the form of joy killers, in the form of expectations that aren't authentic to your soul. And so, wanting to talk more about that, that really is what a joy killer is. And those expectations stop you from living a more joyous life. I'm not saying you don't already have a joyous life, but a more joyous life.
Yeah.
They stop you from doing what you desire to do. And I would honestly put myself on a limb out there and say the entire purpose of our existence on this world is to live a joyous life filled with us being loving, right? If you feel joyous, you're more likely to be loving because you are doing what you desire to do and being yourself, and that automatically puts you in a loving energy. So that's truly what I feel, and that's another reason I wrote the book, that's how you have an impact on the world, right? If you're centered and joyous, you show that in other people.
Yeah, yeah. And I find that I think we deal with a lot of energy vampires. I've heard of that term. And it can apply to so many different aspects in life without us realizing what's killing us.
Absolutely. Well, and that, I think, honestly, part of the book is that the bills really are addressing some of those invisible energy vampires, right? So, to give an example, in the book, people will gladly go through like, what is my soul salary, and finding out what they currently are, gladly go through, what is my paychecks, which are what feels joyous and fulfilling. That's fun, right? It's fun to identify all those things. It's not as fun to identify the bills in your life. It's not as fun to identify, hey, I have these limiting beliefs or these fears, or I have, these expectations that are laid upon me. Because once you spend the time and identify it, you can't unsee it. So you now know what your energy vampires are. And often we don't take time to assess that. But when you do, you now know it, and you have to say, am I going to do nothing about it, or am I going to do something about it? And so I do feel like it's really interesting that you picked a bill to start with. You're like, actually, I want to talk about expectations and joy killers, because a lot of people would much rather talk about the more fun topic, which is what is your joy, what is your fulfilling purpose. And so I think it's really awesome that you were ready to dive in and do that hard work of actually talking about the bills. And those energy vampires are not just those expectations. It's also these limiting beliefs and fears that have been in our head for many reasons, right? And also addressing those.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as you were talking, I just had a vision of a pool. A pool that has invisible water in it, and then you jump head first and concussion, right? If you don't go in, you don't know, right? Just gotta explore and try and find what works for you, because hey, we're different for a reason.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
not coincidence.
That's so great you say that. One of my part of the book, and also my dedication is to my children. And I say, like, I hope you follow your joy, and I hope you're weird. I hope you be weird. Because who doesn't want to be weird? I mean, who wants to be a cookie cutter like everyone else? It's hard to be weird, but also, like, weird means you're being yourself, because you're not adhering to what everyone else is, And actually, it came about with my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Wood. I was getting picked on, and they're like, you're so weird. And my teacher said, weird is a compliment. And that's like stuck with me, obviously, since 4th grade, because weird is a compliment. You don't want to be not weird. I mean, you do, in the sense of like fitting in and not getting ridiculed, but that's not what your soul wants. Your soul wants to be exactly who you are.
Yeah. I'd say you're not weird enough, or you're too normal, if there is a normal.
Gosh, what is a normal?
I love being weird, and it's my signature. So it's like having an address, right? People know where to find you, where to mail you some stuff if they, it's very similar. And what were some of the challenges and lessons that you learned from writing this book?
Oh, that's actually a great question. I don't know if you've heard this saying that you write the book you need.
Ooh.
It's so like that saying resonated so much with me, because I truly wrote the book I needed at the time. So the book was a lot of times real-time reflections of what I was going through as I had the dimmer switch on my corporate engineering job and was going towards the entrepreneurial job. So I pitched part-time for my old job, and I worked in food manufacturing. And that is, 24/7 food manufacturing does not normally have part-time jobs. But I was pitched it and they gave it to me. And then I went to night school to become a coach. And then I took a sabbatical. And then I ultimately quit my job. So that whole process was also when I was writing my book, or beginning to. And it's so interesting because in real time, I'm going through this huge life transition towards a higher soul salary for myself and against the expectations and grain, right, of others. And so I feel like this book it's very authentic because it truly is where I was going. And I truly believe that I quit my job based off of the lessons I was learning from my book and what I was writing. So my book led me to a direction that I intuitively knew I needed to go, but logically feared immensely. So it's so interesting that you asked, like, what were the challenges? The challenge truly was doing the work myself. Right. So I'm
That's the
asking others
hardest
to do
part.
the work. Yes. I'm asking others to do the work. And so, I'm like, no, I need to do these exercises as well. And I was doing them and, refining them based off what I found. And it truly, truly changed my life. Writing the book changed my life. And I still do check-ins with the book. I'll still do the exercises when I'm feeling, hey, the joy's kind of dropped a little bit. Let's get back to that. Is it a joy killer, or do I need to find more joy? What is it? So.
Yeah. It's do your family or friends remind you to read your own book if you're feeling down or having a bad day, or your thoughts?
My best friend has done it. My husband has done it. Hey, I
Yeah.
remember the exercise you had about, and it's a good reminder. And like, practice what you preach, right? It's actually a very hard thing to practice what you preach. But I did it once all throughout. And honestly, in my book at the very end, I say, okay, once you've become a high earner or a upper middle class soul salary earner, you really need to give yourself performance evaluations. Just, you're the CEO of your life, and you would give anybody other employee evaluation. So make sure you do an assessment yearly, at least. So I plan to do that. The year mark's coming soon for me. And so I'm going to do the book again and say, okay, where am I at right now? Let's do, what is my, I always start with, what is your soul salary? So like, do a check-in. I have a quiz that we'll talk about later, but there's a quiz that will tell you, what is your soul salary right now? Are you are you minimum wage? Are you middle class? Are you high earner in soul salary? And that's always where we start. Because once you, and it breaks it up into joy, fulfillment, and basic needs. So you can see, like, where am I lacking? And then you don't have to read the whole book again. Like in that, so I don't have to read the whole book again. It's like, oh, I'm lacking in joy and basic needs. I'll focus on those chapters. It's a way to keep checking in with yourself, and you could do it quarterly. You could do it however often you want, so that you can keep yourself in this beautiful state of joy and fulfillment. It really is just a totally different vibration.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do people stay up with that vibration? Because there are a million things to bring it down every day.
Yeah, for sure. I would say small actions. It's small actions. It's, oh, I am feeling incredibly not joyous right now. It's that reflection, right? It's noticing in your body, all right, I am feeling ick. Okay, what about it is feeling ick? I am doing something at work that I don't feel proud of. Maybe this is like not aligned with my values, or I am worrying and I've packed my schedule so full that I have no room left for joy, or I have reduced my sleep significantly so I can keep up with the demands of the kids. Like, that's a joy, a fulfillment, and a basic needs example of why you could be feeling ick. And there is no way that you're not going to have ebbs and flows. Like, that is life, right? Like, you are going to have ick days, you're going to have ick moments, but you're also going to have joy days and joy glimmers. You're going to have those joy moments. So it's both. And I think what I've found with my clients is one of the biggest things is not doing a reflection. Like, honestly, not even knowing what your paychecks are. Like, not even realizing, like, oh, this is what brings me joy. Oh, this is what brings me fulfillment. And a lot of times I found that especially moms with younger children have forgotten or need to amend what brings them joy and fulfillment and to add it back into life. Sometimes we don't even know what to ask for because we haven't taken the moment to reflect. And as you feel ick, I know it's hard to do, but that's when you need to say,
Yeah.
what do I need to do next?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm telling you, those little suckers, they do suck energy out.
Mhm.
Kids, right? They're so beautiful and they bring joy, but yeah, you're right, moms.
Well, and some
We
of that's
lose
basic needs.
passion. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think a lot of that too is basic needs. You're trying to meet the needs of the children, but you're trying to meet the needs of the children, and you need to meet the needs of yourself. And I feel like a lot of moms say, I'll work on the children and I think that we need to take out the then. I'll take care of the children and myself, not and then.
I
Right?
do both. People think
Good.
I have the time or I'm motivated or have energy. I'm like, why not? My kids know not to mess with my bedtime, and anyone else know not to do that because I have the habit and routine, and I'm intentional and lifting myself and others, right? Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about habits and routines. Do you think that plays a big role of how we feed our souls?
I think it depends on the person, truly. I mean, truly,
Yeah.
it's a soul salary. Remember, said be weird. Every person is unique. Some
Hmm.
people like to go routine. Some people like to flow.
Hmm.
I will say I'm very much a in betweener. So sometimes I have this plan every day to what I call time. T for thankfulness, I for insights, M for meditation, and E for exercise. It's a framework,
Hmm.
and then I flow through the day of what I feel. So I'll
Hmm.
say, like right after this, I plan to meditate. I do, because I know that I'll be a little more tired from having a, long kind of vulnerable conversation with you. So I'm gonna say, okay, that's my time to refresh with a meditation. Like I already know that's something I'm gonna need. This morning I was feeling a little ick. So I spent a little more time on the thankfulness, right? Because in writing gratitude for me, I notice all the joy glimmers that I sometimes might have overlooked otherwise. So yeah, and then there are days that I don't do any of them, right? Like obviously the goal is to do all four, but there are definitely days where
Hmm.
I don't do any of them, and for me, I have a framework, and I also listen to exactly what I need that day.
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
about you? Where do you fall?
Everywhere.
Mhm.
Meaning with self-care habits?
Habits or like flowing?
Yeah, I'm gentle with myself, also strict, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Because I've been, in the past very, very ill to a point where I had to drop everything and be in the hospital. That was an eye opener for me. So I don't really mess with my health. I advocate, for what I've experienced and continue to experience. But I kind of flow. I'm a free spirit. I go with the day, with the hour, with my feelings, and I just learn to honor myself and my energy.
Love
Because if
that.
I don't have any or enough energy, I can't give any energy to anyone else, not
I
including
just
my
love that.
kids.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Hmm. Hmm.
And a
And
lot of
also
moms are not doing
boundaries.
that. Yeah.
Boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Boundaries also. I've had to sadly put some boundaries up. They're not
Well,
walls. They're just
I would
boundaries.
change sadly. I would change
Yeah.
sadly. Lovingly. Lovingly.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
Yeah.
it's Brene Brown that says the most loving people are also the most boundaried.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what Brene Brown said. And she did research on it. And they found, you
Mm.
know, these people who were incredibly like loving and happy. And they were the most boundaried because it's very clear to everyone how to interact. It was not wishy-washy, and it wasn't like you say yes to something but you really don't want to do it. Now you resent the person. It's like, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
That's the boundary. Like you said about bedtime. Like that's really an interesting one of like, I know
Mhm.
bedtime is a hard boundary for me. Like this is what I need. And
Mhm.
so like you said, I love what you said. Like I'm gentle with myself and strict. That's such an interesting way to put it. And I really resonate with that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So also you're a life coach. What sets you apart from other life coaches? I've interviewed so many.
You have?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Wonderful. So, joy.
Mm,
My focus is on joy. And so, there's coaches that are, here for anything in life. I really, really focus on living a joyous life. That is my main goal. Obviously there's things within that. So, basic needs is a barrier to entry. Like you have to be meeting your basic needs. So we do talk about that in my coaching sessions, but a lot of it is how do we live a more joyous and fulfilling life? And that's a lot of my coaching now actually like goes, like I said, through the book. Because I realized if I want to have a profound impact on the world, I can't only do one-on-one clients, right? Because that's one person at a time.
Yeah.
And so, if I have this lofty goal, I want to do things aligned with it. And so I wrote the book because that's anybody who buys the book and uses even a little bit of it, I'm impacting with my coaching, because the book is motivational, it's a workbook, it's coaching, it's my voice, et cetera. So that's a way that I coach now in a broader aspect. And these podcasts, like we got to have a little bit of coaching moment, right? We were talking about your expectations, and now other people will hear that. And I'll bet you almost all of your listeners had one of those expectations on their list that you said, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's another way to coach is through this. So I think two things that set me apart. One, my extreme focus on joy and joyous living. Two, is a different look at what coaching means. So books, podcasts, etc. It's not just one-on-one conversations.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. Have you ever told people what you do when it comes to joy and happiness and kind of look puzzled? Because I find that people who talks about joy and happiness, people may say, "What's wrong with you?" I'm in my sadness, grieving, and I don't know if that's making sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
I would say two things. One, if you're confused about why I focus on joy, you're probably out of touch with your joy. Seriously, probably out of touch with your joy, or it's a mirror, right? You're like, oh, joy, overrated. Well, that's because you're not prioritizing it, right? And that's fine. And then but like two, if you are in extreme grief or an extreme sadness, or like you said, a health issue, or there's so many times in life where joy is possible. But first and foremost, like I said, the barrier to entry is basic needs, right? And so I call that in my book, demand minimum wage. So it's the law, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Canada has a similar law, but in the United States, we have a minimum wage that you have to pay your employees. You do, yeah. And so, I say it's the law, because so you are the CEO of your life. If you're not paying yourself minimum wage, which is you're getting sleep, you have food, you're you have hygiene practices, you're drinking enough water, basically basic taking care of yourself, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, then you really don't need to be moving on to the next chapters, which are joy and fulfillment, right? Like you really need to start with, it's Maslow's hierarchy, the pyramid where the bottom is, the very basic needs, and you keep going up until you get to the top, which is like self-realization, self-actualization. And it's similar in soul salary. You need to meet minimum wage, and then you can work on becoming middle class and higher. And I'm not saying in those moments of deep grief and sadness and mental health issues and physical health issues that you can't find joy and joy glimmers. I'm not saying that. I think in any moment you can find joy glimmers. That's just a small little thing that brings you joy. I mean, it could literally be, I have a hot cup of tea and I love hot tea. Like it could be just that moment of holding the mug. Okay, that's the only moment you had a joy that you can think of today. That's fine. You will always have a joy moment or a joy glimmer in the day if you just notice it. If you're willing to notice it, right? But I wouldn't say let's do full-on joyful living coaching when you're going through those really hard times. I would say meet your basic needs, and then notice the joy glimmers around you. Start there.
Yeah, because sometimes I find it hard to be around people that are either negative or find my joy to be dangerous for them, if that makes sense. It's like, you're too happy for me to be around you. You're going through this and this and this and that, and you're still podcasting, you're still smiling. Why aren't you crumbling like I am? Right? Those are the thoughts or feelings I get. I think it's a choice, and it's intention, and recognizing that we have the power to choose and to do more than
You are
what
the
we're
CEO of
given.
your life. You are the
Yeah,
CEO of your life. You get
yeah.
to decide what your life is. No one else gets to decide it for you. So
Mhm.
why am I not crumbling? Because I'm the CEO of my life, and I put in these strategies in my company, aka your life,
Yeah,
that allow me to have more joy and
yeah.
fulfillment, because that's what I've decided as the CEO of my life,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah,
yeah, I think that's absolutely beautiful, Bernadette, that you're, so focused on that, and even in rough times. So that's
yeah, yeah.
good on you.
I mean, I haven't had a break so far, so I'm just making the best of it. So, because life, it's not promised, and the things that it brings can be very unexpected. Whether we're ready for them or not is just what we do with what we have.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love.
yeah.
Well, and you know what? Like, you are a glimmer. You're a sparkle. If when
Thank you.
you bring in that energy, and that
Mm.
through adversity, coming through with that, you're a sparkle and an energy that people can see. And sometimes moths come to the light, right? They're like, oh, you're light. Yes, I want to be around you, but I'm also still a moth. I'm not quite the light yet.
Yeah,
But also, like, the people who are sparkles as well will also flock to you. So
yeah.
I think
Yeah, I
that's
love
really
that you bring that up, because every time I'm out or grocery store walking, somehow people are attracted to me.
cool.
They want to say hi, what's your name? You're beautiful. I'm like, who are you? Right? People always feel comfort to talk to me, and I'm grateful for that.
I think that's wonderful. Yeah, you're a
Mhm.
safe place. You're a high
Yeah,
vibration safe place.
yeah,
Like you said,
yeah,
you're trying to make an impact on the world, and just by being a sparkling light, you are.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. Do you get nervous when you're speaking for
Um,
the book and other works that you've done?
in the podcast, no, I love it because it feels like a one-on-one conversation, and
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
one-on-one conversations. And Bernadette, I'm a little like you. Whenever I go to public places, people will flock to me and often tell me, like, their deepest, darkest secrets.
Ooh.
It's so funny. And so I don't like, I was like, the first time it happened, I was like, oh, that was interesting. Must have
Mhm.
felt safe with me. And then it keeps happening. And so I realized, like, I'm a safe place too for that. So I totally, yeah, I get that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, should I put on a hat or just, camouflage somehow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some tips and tools that you use when working with your clients?
Um, I guess one is just ask so many questions. I'm a guide.
Hmm.
I don't have the answer, right? I'm the guide. You have the answers. I ask the questions to get you to the answers.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
that's
How,
a big
yeah.
rule of
Oh,
mine.
yeah. How long is your programs? How long?
Yeah. 3, 6, or 12 months.
Ooh. Does it get harder the further you go?
Um, yeah, it does.
Oh, wow.
Because in 3 months, you do a lot of the low hanging fruit. In 6 months, you do the middle of the tree hanging fruit.
Hmm.
In 12 months, you're at the top of the fruit tree, getting the really hard to reach fruit that's hard to do, right? So, like, I'll give an example. Like, in my book, I say there are raises and promotions. A raise is that low hanging fruit. So something I did for a raise was go part-time.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was my raise in soul salary.
Hmm.
A promotion is a much bigger decision, something that scares the heck out of you. That's what a promotion is. And so that for me was quitting my job. Right. And so that's that high fruit that's hard to reach in that 12-month program. Right.
Hmm.
And then for bills, it's similar. You can just budget. You can do things like, um, maybe I no longer want to volunteer for the PTO. It's not my favorite thing, or the PTA.
Hmm.
So I take that off my list. Okay, that's budgeting. There's also budget cuts,
Yeah.
and that's that, again, harder thing to do, scares the heck out of you. Maybe a budget cut is cutting somebody out of your life for now. Those are like bigger decisions that are hard to
Hmm.
decide to do. And so, some people, I mean, can make huge progress in 3 or 6 months for sure. But that 12-month is definitely a very high transformational period, especially as you get along on the time.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were saying, cut, I don't know. I visualize stuff all the time. I don't remember if it's an actual quote. It says, if I cut you off, the chances are you handed me the scissors, like cutting a ribbon, right? Because I don't think we cut people off out of malicious intentions.
Right.
They helped us make the decisions to cut them off. And it's also us stepping into our power, realizing that this is not where I want to stay. This is not who I am.
And nothing has to be final. And nothing has to be final. It could be a cut for now, and we can always tie the pieces back together if it makes sense in the future. That's kind of how I like to function. Is it's cut for now, but I'm open to tying it in the future if it makes sense for me and you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. What are some key points and takeaways that you want my guests to have from this episode?
Number one, be weird. Right? Be weird. Weird is a compliment.
Yeah.
And number two, I would suggest starting your soul salary journey with, I have a quiz that is free and very quick. It'll tell you where you are right now, minimum wage, middle class, high earner. It'll also tell you where you are in basic needs, joy, and fulfillment. And then it gives you tips based off of your score. So if you just want some quick tips to get started, I would suggest doing that. And that's at www.Jess Kaskov, KASKOV.com/soul salary. Remember, it's SOUL salary. And that will give you free tips, so you don't have to buy the book. And then if right away, if it feels supporting to you, then you can always buy the book as well. And that's on Amazon. And it's under that name of Soul Salary by Jess Kaskov. So, dive in. I would say dive in. Bernadette and I did today. We talked about our expectations and fears, and just having a little bit of reflection can truly, truly alter your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. How can someone start to reflect if they're terrified to even reflect on anything, let alone on themselves?
I suggest starting with your needs. So start reflecting on, what does my body feel today? What is my emotional state? What is my mental state? So I say, start that, like in the morning, say, like you said, Bernadette, you kind of flow with what your body needs. Okay. My body feels tired today. My mind feels cluttered, very chaotic. My emotions feel like I need to cry. Okay. You are now reflecting.
Yeah.
You are reflecting on what's going on with yourself. The second thing I say is, now what's something you can do to support those three? My body's tired. Okay. I'm going to take a nap today, or I'm going to go to bed early. My mind is chaotic. I'm going to sit in silence for 1 minute. My emotions need to cry. I'm watching a sappy movie tonight. I'm going to cry my eyes out. Right? And then just pick one. So those reflections of where you're at on those three things, emotional, mental, and physical, help you reflect. And then making an action help you realize that your reflections can turn into action. And that's just a very simple thing. And then as you do that one thing each day, your soul starts to trust that you're going to take care of you. That also helps. It's like, once you feel supported by yourself, that you're going to take care of your body, your mental state, your emotional state, then it becomes easier to reflect on bigger things that are scarier.
Yeah, I love that. I get the feeling that your book is a safe place. It's not judging, it's just open, and for those who want to read it, to get what they can out of it. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I think no one's ever said that. That's a really cool way to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else we haven't covered that you'd like to touch on?
I think we've done an awesome job of having a really fun conversation. Nothing I can think of at this point.
Okay. Well, in that case, I have one last question. What is the meaning of life for you?
I think I kind of touched on it earlier. It's to live a joyous life. Well, I like to say joyous and loving. So I like to spread love and joy. That's the meaning of life. Actually, the motto I have is spread love and joy broadly, starting with me.
Ooh.
So I need to have the love and joy, and then I can spread it broadly.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah. Well, Jess, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your gift with me and my audience and others who need it. And I just love the refreshing ideas and perspective you have and how you apply it to your work and your book. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It was wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, you too.